So you want to understand Russia, a country of epic triumphs, tragedies, and reinventions. From czars to revolutionaries, cosmonauts to oligarchs, Russia's story is a roller coaster of power, ideology, and resilience. We'll journey from the 1917 revolution to today's Russia, exploring how a revolutionary dream became a superpower, why it collapsed, and how the nation that rose from its ashes shapes our world. Let's get started. In 1917, Tsar Nicholas II's Russia was collapsing. War, famine, and unrest led to his abdication. The Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, seized power, promising a classless society based on Marxist ideals. A brutal civil war followed. By 1922, the USSR was born, the world's first communist state. After Lenin's death, Stalin took control, building a totalitarian regime through purges, propaganda, and absolute power. The dream of a worker's paradise was about to take a dark, ruthless turn. Stalin's five-year plans rapidly industrialized the USSR, but at a staggering human cost. Forced collectivization led to famine, millions died or were sent to the Gulag. Then came World War II. The USSR lost 27 million people but emerged victorious, cementing its status as a superpower. The Red Army's triumph over Nazi Germany transformed the USSR into a global force. Stalin's brutal methods built the industrial might needed for victory, but left deep scars. The stage was set for a new global rivalry. The Cold War began, a tense, decades-long standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers locked in a global struggle for influence and ideology. The world was divided by the Iron Curtain, a symbolic and physical barrier that split Eastern and Western Europe. On one side stood the capitalist West, led by the US, on the other, the communist East, dominated by the USSR. The Berlin Wall became the most visible symbol of this division, separating families and friends and serving as a daily reminder of the deep ideological rift. Proxy wars erupted across the globe, from the jungles of Vietnam to the mountains of Afghanistan, as each side sought to expand its influence without triggering a direct conflict. Meanwhile, the nuclear arms race escalated, with both nations amassing vast arsenals of atomic weapons. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, meant that any nuclear exchange would be catastrophic for both sides, keeping the world in a constant state of anxiety. Military parades showcased missiles capable of annihilating cities, and the threat of nuclear war loomed over everyday life. In 1957, the Soviets shocked the world by launching Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, into orbit. Just a few years later, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space, cementing Soviet prestige and igniting the space race. The United States scrambled to catch up, pouring resources into science and technology. Space exploration became a new battleground, with each side vying to prove the superiority of its system, not just on Earth, but beyond it. Daily life in the USSR was a study in contrasts. Citizens enjoyed free education and healthcare, and the state promised security and employment for all. Yet, political freedom was severely restricted, and shortages of basic goods were common. Long lines for bread and meat became a routine part of life, and cramped communal apartments were the norm for many families. Despite these hardships, a sense of collective purpose and pride in Soviet achievements persisted. The KGB, the Soviet Union's powerful security agency, worked tirelessly to suppress dissent and maintain control. Surveillance was widespread, and those who spoke out against the government risked arrest, exile, or worse. At the same time, consumer goods remained scarce, and Western luxuries were out of reach for most Soviet citizens. The promise of security and equality came at a steep price. Personal liberty and innovation were often stifled. Creative thinkers and inventors faced censorship, and many of the brightest minds left for the West in search of freedom and opportunity. The Soviet system prioritized conformity and control over individual expression. Around the globe, people watched anxiously as the US and USSR vied for dominance. Every move was scrutinized, every crisis, like the Cuban Missile Standoff, brought the world to the brink. The Cold War shaped politics, culture, and technology for generations, leaving a legacy that still echoes today. By the 1980s, the Soviet system was stagnating, inefficient, corrupt, and unable to meet basic needs. Gorbachev's reforms, glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, unleashed free speech and attempted economic change. Instead, they triggered chaos, shortages, unrest, and rising nationalism in Soviet republics. Eastern Europe's communist regimes collapsed in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, the Soviet Empire unraveled, and independence movements swept the USSR. By 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved, ending an era. The world's largest experiment in communism was over. After a failed coup in 1991, Boris Yeltsin led Russia into a turbulent new era. Shock therapy privatized industries overnight, creating oligarchs and plunging millions into poverty. Hyperinflation, crime, and social collapse defined the 1990s. Democracy felt chaotic and corrupt. Yeltsin's presidency was marked by political crises and a brutal war in Chechnya. By 1999, Russia was adrift. Yeltsin resigned, handing power to Vladimir Putin. A new chapter was about to begin. Putin promised stability and national pride, fueled by oil and gas wealth. He reined in oligarchs, centralized power, and restored Russia's global influence. Stability returned, but at the cost of democratic freedoms and a free press. Russia's assertive foreign policy led to conflicts in Georgia and Ukraine, straining relations with the West. Putin's era is defined by a trade-off economic recovery and strength for less political pluralism. Many Russians accepted this bargain, seeking order after years of chaos. Today's Russia stands as a nation of striking contrasts, a place where gleaming modern cities, cutting-edge scientific research, and formidable military power coexist with deep-rooted challenges. In the heart of Moscow, skyscrapers pierce the sky, symbolizing ambition and progress, while bustling streets reflect the energy of a society in constant motion. Russia's achievements in space exploration, technology, and defense are sources of national pride, showcasing a country determined to assert its place on the global stage. Yet beneath this modern exterior, Russia faces profound and persistent difficulties. The economy remains heavily dependent on the export of natural resources like oil and gas, making it vulnerable to global price fluctuations and external pressures. In many regions, abandoned factories and struggling rural communities tell a story of economic hardship and uneven development. Demographic decline is another pressing issue, as an aging population and low birth rates threaten the country's long-term vitality. Widespread corruption continues to undermine trust in institutions and stifle innovation, creating barriers to progress for ordinary citizens. The divide between rich and poor is stark and ever-present. In the shadow of luxury shopping malls and high-end boutiques, many Russians struggle to make ends meet in aging apartment blocks and neglected neighborhoods. This economic inequality fuels frustration and shapes the daily realities of millions, highlighting the uneven distribution of wealth and opportunity across the country. Political dissent is tightly controlled, with authorities often responding swiftly to protests and opposition movements. Freedom of expression and independent journalism face significant restrictions, making it difficult for alternative voices to be heard. This environment of control and surveillance has led to a climate of caution among those who seek change. On the world stage, Russia pursues an assertive foreign policy, projecting strength through military parades, strategic alliances, and displays of national unity. The government emphasizes sovereignty and resilience, seeking to defend its interests and influence in a rapidly changing international landscape. This assertiveness has led to significant tensions with Western nations, resulting in waves of economic sanctions that have impacted businesses and everyday life. The closure of foreign companies, shortages of goods, and rising prices are daily reminders of the country's strained relationship with the West, fueling both resentment and a sense of defiance among the population. In response, Russia has sought to strengthen its ties with China, forging new economic partnerships and political alliances. This pivot to the east is reshaping trade routes, investment flows, and diplomatic priorities as both nations look to support each other in the face of global challenges. Meanwhile, a new generation of Russians is coming of age, one that is more connected to the world than ever before. Through technology, travel, and education, young people are exposed to new ideas, cultures, and possibilities, challenging traditional norms and expectations. Their aspirations and priorities are shifting, with many seeking opportunities beyond Russia's borders or pushing for change at home. They value creativity, freedom, and global engagement, signaling a potential transformation in the country's social fabric. Despite these changes, Russia remains deeply proud of its history. National holidays, war memorials, and the stories of past generations are honored and remembered, serving as powerful symbols of resilience and unity. The legacy of victory and sacrifice continues to shape the nation's identity and sense of purpose. Yet, for many, the future feels uncertain. Economic pressures, political restrictions, and global isolation weigh heavily on the minds of young and old alike. There is a sense of searching, a quiet contemplation about what lies ahead and how the country can navigate the challenges it faces. Russia's path forward is anything but simple. It is a journey marked by complexity, unpredictability, and the constant interplay of tradition and change. As the nation moves ahead, its people continue to adapt, persevere, and hope for a future that honors their past while embracing new possibilities. In just over a century, Russia has experienced a whirlwind of transformation, cycling through the grandeur of imperial rule, the chaos and hope of revolution, the heights and tensions of superpower status, and the uncertainty of collapse, only to rise again in a new form. Each era has left its mark, shaping the Russian identity in profound ways. The echoes of Tsarist opulence, the fervor of the Bolshevik Revolution, and the iron grip of the Soviet Union all linger in the national consciousness, creating a tapestry of memory and myth that continues to influence the present. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 was a seismic event, not just for Russia, but for the entire world. Overnight, a superpower dissolved, leaving behind uncertainty, economic hardship, and a search for new meaning. Yet, from the ashes of collapse, Russia has shown a remarkable ability to adapt and reinvent itself, striving for resurgence on the global stage. Russia's history is a story of immense sacrifice and contradiction. From the devastating losses of World War II, where millions perished defending their homeland, to the everyday struggles of ordinary citizens enduring hardship, the Russian people have demonstrated extraordinary resilience. Their ability to endure, to find hope in the bleakest of times is woven into the fabric of the nation. The Soviet era left a complex legacy, one of scientific achievement and space exploration, but also of repression and fear. Soviet pride and propaganda celebrated unity and strength, while beneath the surface, many lived with uncertainty and loss. Yet the memory of victory in World War II and the sense of collective achievement remain powerful sources of national pride. The trauma of the 1990s, marked by economic collapse, political upheaval, and social instability, tested the spirit of the Russian people. Long lines for food, protests in the streets, and the struggle to adapt to a new reality left deep scars. But these years also sparked a search for new direction and identity, as Russians grappled with the loss of old certainties. The rise of Vladimir Putin brought a new era of stability and order, at least on the surface. Under his leadership, Russia has sought to reclaim its place as a major world power, investing in military strength, modernizing its cities, and projecting confidence. Yet, this stability has come with its own trade-offs, as questions about freedom, democracy, and the future remain. To truly understand Russia, one must appreciate its epic journey, a journey marked by dramatic change, difficult choices, and the constant balancing of tradition and progress. Every generation faces its own set of challenges, and the trade-offs made along the way continue to shape the nation's path. Today, Russia stands at a crossroads. Its future will be determined not just by its leaders, but by the hopes, dreams, and actions of its people. The younger generation, shaped by both the past and the promise of the future, will play a crucial role in defining what it means to be Russian in the 21st century. The ongoing search for identity is ever present. From the revival of religious traditions to the embrace of modern education and technology, Russians are constantly negotiating what to keep from the past and what to leave behind. Their voices, diverse and passionate, reflect a nation still in the process of becoming. Russia remains a nation both proud of its achievements and uncertain about its future. Its people celebrate their heritage, yet many wonder what lies ahead. The tension between pride and uncertainty is a defining feature of the Russian experience. As the world continues to change, Russia's story is far from over. It remains a vital player in the unfolding narrative of our time, a country whose choices and challenges will shape not only its own destiny but the fate of the world. Thanks for watching.